Elizabeth Short was born on July 29, 1924, in Boston, Massachusetts. She was the youngest of 5 children in a family struggling to find stability. Her father, Hugh Short, worked as a mechanic, constantly searching for better opportunities, while her mother, Cleo, tried to keep the household together. Elizabeth's early years were marked by frequent moves and economic hardship. Though she was clever and lively, her childhood was largely overshadowed by the family struggles. By her teenage years, Elizabeth had developed a restless energy, a desire to escape the confines of small-town life, and a fascination with glamour. In the late 1930s and early 1940s, America was changing rapidly. The Great Depression had left scars, but the advent of World War II brought new opportunities. Young women like Elizabeth were drawn to the possibilities of independence and adventure, and Hollywood loomed as a beacon of fame and freedom. After her parents divorced in the late 1930s, Elizabeth moved with her mother and siblings to California. The journey from the East Coast to Los Angeles was not only geographical, it marked a shift toward a new life full of hope, ambition, and uncertainty. Los Angeles in the 1940s was a city of contrasts. The glittering facade of Hollywood glamour stood in sharp contrast to the darker, shadowy streets where crime and corruption thrived. In Los Angeles, Elizabeth tried to carve a niche for herself. She took minor jobs in cafes and small shops, hoping to support herself while pursuing modeling and acting. Her striking looks and slim figure made her a noticeable presence wherever she went. She became known among acquaintances for her charm, wit, and the way she carried herself with a blend of innocence and ambition. Hollywood in the early 1940s was a place of opportunity but also danger. The studio system controlled the careers of actors and actresses, often treating them as commodities. Many young women, including Elizabeth, found themselves navigating a complex social landscape, balancing dreams of stardom with the harsh realities of survival. She moved between apartments in various neighborhoods, mingling with aspiring actors, studio employees, and a growing network of acquaintances who offered her glimpses of the life she hoped to lead. During this period, Elizabeth also experienced personal challenges. Relationships with men were often fleeting and complicated. She sought attention and affection, sometimes from older men who offered promises of advancement or protection. These encounters, while providing temporary support, also exposed her to the undercurrents of danger in the city, a city that promised fame but often delivered exploitation. In 1943, Elizabeth's quest for a career in entertainment intensified. She began attending social events and gatherings where studio scouts and photographers might notice her. She experimented with different looks, adopting fashionable clothing and the sleek hairstyles that were popular among Hollywood hopefuls. Her ambition was clear. She wanted to be recognized, to step out of obscurity and into the spotlight. Yet, even as she chased fame, Elizabeth remained vulnerable. The streets of Los Angeles were not safe, particularly for young women alone. Crime rates were rising, and reports of assaults and disappearances circulated in the newspapers. Many women navigated this dangerous terrain with caution, but Elizabeth's determination often led her into risky situations. By 1945, Elizabeth's presence in Hollywood was becoming more pronounced. Photographs of her began appearing in amateur modeling portfolios, and she occasionally secured minor roles in student films or background scenes. Though these opportunities were limited, they reinforced her belief that she could break into the industry. The city itself seemed to mirror her dual existence. Bright lights and glamour on one side, shadows and hidden threats on the other. Los Angeles offered the promise of transformation, yet it also concealed dangers that were often invisible until it was too late. Elizabeth's life, though filled with ambition, was increasingly entwined with this precarious reality. As 1946 approached, her circumstances became more unstable. She moved frequently between boarding houses and rented rooms, often struggling to pay rent. Despite this, she remained optimistic and social, attending parties, meeting new acquaintances, and maintaining a network of contacts who might advance her career. Her charm and charisma drew people to her, but her trust in strangers sometimes put her in jeopardy. Elizabeth's ambition, beauty, and vulnerability converged during this time, setting the stage for the tragic events that would unfold in early 1947. Los Angeles, with its glittering exterior and hidden dangers, became the backdrop for one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history, the brutal killing of Elizabeth Short, forever known as the Black Dahlia. By the winter of 1946, Elizabeth was increasingly alone, struggling to navigate a city that promised so much yet offered little security. Friends and acquaintances would later describe her as confident and spirited, yet there was also a fragility beneath her bold exterior. Her interactions with strangers and acquaintances reflected both her desire for connection and the risks inherent in a city rife with deception. The months leading up to January 1947 were filled with routine yet ominous undertones. Elizabeth continued to socialize and pursue opportunities, but there were signs of the instability that marked her life. Fleeting relationships, periods of uncertainty, and an awareness of her precarious position in a city that could be unforgiving. This combination of ambition, charm, and vulnerability defined Elizabeth Short's existence in Los Angeles. She was a young woman striving for recognition in a world that could be both dazzling and cruel. The circumstances of her life in the city, her interactions, movements, and choices, would later become central to the investigation of her murder, a crime that shocked the nation and remains unsolved to this day. The winter of 1946 marked a period of uncertainty and transient stability for Elizabeth Short. Living in Los Angeles without the support of a stable family or secure income, she became increasingly dependent on temporary jobs, casual acquaintances, and the fleeting kindness of strangers. Yet, despite the instability, Elizabeth remained determined to pursue her dreams of acting and recognition. She had become a familiar figure in certain social circles of Hollywood hopefuls and small-time entertainers, her striking appearance drawing attention wherever she went. By December 1946, Elizabeth was 22 years old. Her life had become a precarious balance between social engagement and survival. She frequented boarding houses and hotels, moving from one temporary residence to another as opportunities and circumstances dictated. Friends who encountered her during this time noted her vivacious personality and magnetic presence, yet there were also signs of weariness. The hardships of repeated disappointments and unstable living conditions had begun to take a toll on her physical and emotional well-being. In the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Elizabeth was reportedly seen attending parties and social gatherings, often accompanied by acquaintances who moved in Hollywood's less glamorous circles. She was known to interact with both aspiring actors and men involved in questionable activities, navigating the blurred lines between socializing and seeking professional advancement. Her charm and confidence were evident, but beneath her outward optimism lay a vulnerability that made her susceptible to manipulation and danger. On the evening of January 9, 1947, Elizabeth left a friend's home in Los Angeles, intending to meet another acquaintance. It would be the last time she was seen alive. Eyewitness accounts and later reconstructions of her movements indicate that she walked the streets of Los Angeles that night, passing through dimly lit neighborhoods and empty avenues. The city, cloaked in fog and shadows, reflected both the allure and peril that defined her existence. The circumstances of Elizabeth's final hours remained shrouded in mystery. Numerous individuals claimed to have seen her, and investigators later pieced together a fragmented timeline based on witness statements, hotel records, and telephone inquiries. What is known is that she was last observed in the company of an unknown individual, a person whose intentions remain a matter of speculation and investigation. This unknown companion would become central to one of the most infamous unsolved murder cases in American history. On January 15, 1947, Elizabeth Short's body was discovered in a vacant lot in the Lima Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. The scene was horrifying and unprecedented in its brutality. Her body had been severed at the waist, and the wounds indicated extreme precision, suggesting knowledge of anatomy or surgical experience. The mutilation and arrangement of the body, posed in a manner that was both deliberate and grotesque, shocked police officers, journalists, and the public alike. Newspapers across the country quickly seized upon the story, sensationalizing the crime and dubbing the victim the Black Dahlia, a name that would become forever associated with her murder. The discovery sparked one of the largest and most intense investigations in Los Angeles history. Police scrambled to identify the victim, initially unsure of her identity due to the extreme condition of her body. Once identified as Elizabeth Short, the investigation expanded, with detectives interviewing hundreds of potential witnesses, acquaintances, and suspects. Her social life, movements, and personal relationships came under intense scrutiny, revealing a web of interactions that spanned Hollywood social circles, transient acquaintances, and individuals whose intentions were difficult to ascertain. The media coverage of the Black Dahlia murder was unprecedented. Sensational headlines, graphic descriptions, and speculative reporting fueled public fascination and fear. Newspapers portrayed Elizabeth as a glamorous yet vulnerable figure, emphasizing both her ambition and the tragic circumstances of her death. The intense media attention influenced the investigation, adding pressure to the police while also complicating efforts to discern factual information from rumor and speculation. Detectives considered numerous theories regarding the identity of the perpetrator. Some believed the murder was the act of a mentally disturbed individual, while others suspected a calculated crime perpetrated by someone with knowledge of anatomy and a deliberate desire to shock or intimidate. Interviews with acquaintances revealed conflicting accounts of Elizabeth's final days, including her movements, interactions, and personal relationships. Friends describe her as energetic and hopeful, while others noted moments of fear or unease. Despite extensive efforts, the investigation faced significant obstacles. The transient nature of Elizabeth's life meant that many potential witnesses had only fleeting knowledge of her whereabouts. The anonymity of Los Angeles neighborhoods, combined with incomplete police records and the limitations of forensic technology at the time, hindered investigators' ability to reconstruct the events leading to her death. Additionally, the media frenzy complicated the gathering of credible evidence, as countless tips, rumors, and false leads flooded police departments. One of the most chilling aspects of the case was the precision and staging of the crime. The body had been meticulously cleaned and posed, suggesting a perpetrator who sought not only to kill but to communicate something through the presentation of the remains. Forensic analysis indicated that the perpetrator had knowledge of anatomy, heightening suspicion that the crime may have been committed by someone with medical or military training. This chilling level of detail added a macabre fascination to the case, fueling speculation and fear across Los Angeles. Throughout the investigation, numerous suspects were identified, ranging from acquaintances and former lovers to individuals with criminal records or known violent tendencies. However, despite extensive interrogations and the examination of evidence, no one was ever formally charged. The case grew cold, leaving law enforcement and the public grappling with unanswered questions. The inability to solve the murder became emblematic of the dangers and shadows lurking beneath the surface of post-war Los Angeles, a city simultaneously celebrated for its glamour and feared for its hidden crimes. In the weeks and months following the discovery of Elizabeth's body, the case continued to attract intense public interest. Journalists and amateur detectives speculated about motives, relationships, and possible suspects. Some theories suggested that jealousy or rejection may have played a role, while others proposed more sinister motivations, including sadism or revenge. Letters purportedly from the killer were sent to newspapers, taunting police and demonstrating knowledge of the crime scene, further complicating the investigation and intensifying the public's obsession with the case. Elizabeth Short's life, though brief, had intersected with the harsh realities of ambition, vulnerability, and the darker aspects of urban life. Her journey from Boston to Los Angeles, from a hopeful young woman to a tragic figure, reflected both the opportunities and the perils of mid-20th century America. Her murder, marked by its brutality and mystery, highlighted the vulnerability of individuals navigating a city of contrasts, where fame, fortune, and danger coexisted. The Black Dahlia case left an enduring mark on Los Angeles history. It became a symbol of the city's hidden darkness, an example of media sensationalism, and a cautionary tale about the risks faced by those seeking recognition in an unforgiving world. Elizabeth's story resonated not only because of the gruesome circumstances of her death but also because of the human dimensions that preceded it, the ambition, charm, and vulnerabilities that defined her short life. By examining her final months, a picture emerges of a young woman striving for connection, opportunity, and recognition, yet ensnared by circumstances beyond her control. The interplay of hope and danger, light and shadow, ambition and vulnerability, characterizes the narrative of Elizabeth Short's final chapter. The investigation, though extensive, ultimately failed to bring closure, leaving a legacy of unanswered questions and an enduring fascination with one of the most infamous unsolved murders in American history. The discovery of Elizabeth Short's mutilated body on January 15, 1947, sent shockwaves throughout Los Angeles and the nation. Law enforcement agencies faced an unprecedented case, complicated by both the gruesome nature of the crime and the intense media scrutiny that followed immediately. Within hours, detectives from the Los Angeles Police Department were on the scene, documenting every detail of the vacant lot in Limerick Park where her body had been found. The horror of the scene, Elizabeth's body bisected with surgical precision and meticulously posed, challenged investigators both emotionally and professionally. The initial challenge for the police was identification. Because the body had been so severely mutilated, officials struggled to confirm the victim's identity. Forensic evidence was limited by the technology of the time, and investigators relied heavily on fingerprints, dental records, and interviews with acquaintances. Within a few days, Elizabeth Short was positively identified, and the focus shifted to piecing together the final hours of her life and identifying the perpetrator. The LAPD launched a massive investigation. Detectives interviewed hundreds of people connected to Elizabeth, including neighbors, friends, acquaintances, and former lovers. Her social life revealed a web of connections that ranged from aspiring actors and studio employees to men involved in criminal or morally dubious activities. Each lead, however, brought more questions than answers. Many accounts conflicted, and some witnesses were reluctant to speak to the police, fearing involvement or reprisal. Media coverage intensified the pressure on law enforcement. Newspapers across the country competed to report every possible detail of the case, often sensationalizing aspects of Elizabeth's life and death. Headlines dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a name that captured the public imagination and linked her murder to a sense of Hollywood glamour corrupted by violence. Reporters scrutinized her social interactions, movements, and personal relationships, creating a media circus that complicated the investigative process. Letters allegedly sent by the killer to newspapers added another layer of complexity. These communications, sometimes containing knowledge of the crime scene, taunted police and fed public fascination with the case. The letters suggested a perpetrator who sought notoriety and may have possessed medical knowledge or anatomical skill. Some detectives believed the letters to be genuine, while others suspected hoaxes intended to mislead law enforcement. Regardless, the letters contributed to an atmosphere of fear, speculation, and obsession. The investigation considered hundreds of suspects, ranging from men Elizabeth knew personally to complete strangers with criminal backgrounds. Police scrutinized former lovers, colleagues in the entertainment industry, and individuals with records of violence. Yet, despite intensive questioning and surveillance, no one was ever definitively linked to the murder. Some suspects were eliminated due to alibis, while others lacked sufficient evidence to support formal charges. The case grew cold, leaving investigators frustrated and the public captivated by the mystery. Elizabeth's lifestyle prior to her death was a key focus for detectives. Her ambition and social engagements exposed her to a variety of potential threats. She frequently attended parties and social gatherings where alcohol, flirtation, and transient acquaintances were common. Witnesses described her as charming and confident, yet some noted moments of unease or fear, particularly when interacting with certain men. The investigation sought to determine whether her murder was random or premeditated, whether it was the act of a deranged individual or a calculated crime. Forensic analysis, though limited by 1940s technology, offered some clues. The precise bisecting of Elizabeth's body suggested familiarity with anatomy, leading investigators to consider medical professionals, morticians, or individuals with military training as potential suspects. Other forensic details, including the absence of certain personal items and the cleanliness of the body, pointed to a killer who had planned the crime carefully. These details heightened both the horror and the fascination surrounding the case. The media's portrayal of Elizabeth contributed to the public's obsession. Newspapers highlighted her appearance, ambition, and social life, framing her both as a symbol of glamour and a cautionary tale about the dangers facing young women in Los Angeles. Sensationalized accounts blurred the line between fact and fiction, making it difficult for both the public and law enforcement to separate credible evidence from rumor. Reporters interviewed acquaintances, published letters, and speculated on motives, creating a feedback loop that intensified the cultural impact of the murder. Among the suspects, several gained particular attention. One was a local doctor with a questionable history and alleged knowledge of anatomy. Another was a man with a criminal record who had been acquainted with Elizabeth through social circles. Each was subjected to intense scrutiny, yet neither could be definitively connected to the crime. Witness testimonies often conflicted, and forensic evidence was insufficient to secure an indictment. Over time, these leads faded, leaving the investigation increasingly reliant on circumstantial evidence. Community reaction added another layer of complexity. Residents of Los Angeles were both terrified and fascinated. Social gatherings, schools, and workplaces buzzed with discussion of the case. Fear permeated neighborhoods as people realized that the killer had acted with boldness, leaving the body in a public yet secluded area. This combination of horror and proximity heightened public anxiety and ensured that the case remained in the spotlight for years to come. The Black Dahlia murder also revealed the limitations of law enforcement in the 1940s. Investigators faced challenges ranging from incomplete record-keeping to limited forensic techniques. Fingerprinting, blood analysis, and other methods were in their infancy. and the transient nature of Los Angeles' population made tracking potential witnesses difficult. Despite their best efforts, detectives were unable to identify a single, indisputable suspect. In the decades that followed, the Black Dahlia case inspired countless theories, books, and investigations. Some suggested a connection to organized crime, others to sadistic individuals seeking notoriety. The letters received by newspapers remained a source of speculation, as did the precise staging of Elizabeth's body. Each detail contributed to the enduring mystique of the case, cementing its place in American cultural history as a symbol of both horror and fascination. Elizabeth Short herself became more than a victim. She became an icon of tragedy, ambition, and the dangers faced by women navigating a male-dominated and often predatory environment. Her story reflected broader societal tensions in post-war America, including the allure of Hollywood, the precariousness of female independence, and the cultural fascination with crime and scandal. The unresolved nature of the case left lingering questions for law enforcement, journalists, and the public. What motivated the killer? How did the crime go undetected until discovery? Could Elizabeth have been saved if circumstances had been different? These questions remained unanswered, fueling speculation and myth-making for decades. Ultimately, the investigation highlighted both the brilliance and the limitations of the detectives who worked tirelessly to solve the case. Their methods, though constrained by technology and social norms, reflected dedication and ingenuity. Yet, despite exhaustive efforts, the Black Dahlia killer was never apprehended, leaving the case to become a legend of unsolved crime, studied, debated, and mythologized in the years that followed. The media frenzy surrounding the murder set precedents in reporting on crime, sensationalism, and public interest. Newspapers understood the power of narrative, crafting stories that emphasized both Elizabeth's glamour and the grotesque nature of her death. This coverage influenced public perception, shaped cultural memory, and ensured that the Black Dahlia case would remain a subject of fascination long after initial headlines faded. Elizabeth's story, intertwined with the investigation, suspects, and media spectacle, represents a complex interplay of ambition, vulnerability, and societal pressures. Her life and death continue to captivate historians, true crime enthusiasts, and cultural commentators. Through meticulous research, witness accounts, and forensic reconstruction, a portrait emerges of a young woman navigating the promise and peril of Los Angeles, a city capable of both dreams and nightmares. By the end of 1947, the investigation had stalled, leaving a trail of unanswered questions. The police, constrained by technology and incomplete information, could not solve the crime. The Black Dahlia murder became emblematic of the hidden dangers of Los Angeles, a story of ambition, vulnerability, and the unresolved tension between appearance and reality. Elizabeth Short's legacy, shaped by both her life and the media's portrayal, endures as a cautionary tale and a haunting mystery that continues to resonate decades later. The murder of Elizabeth Short, forever known as the Black Dahlia, left an indelible mark on Los Angeles and the nation. By the end of 1947, the case had become emblematic of both the city's glamorous veneer and the darkness lurking beneath its streets. Despite exhaustive investigations, no perpetrator was ever identified, leaving a sense of unresolved tension that would shape public fascination for decades. Elizabeth's life, her brutal death, and the media frenzy that followed created a cultural narrative that transcended the boundaries of true crime, touching on issues of ambition, vulnerability, and the complexities of post-war American society. In the immediate aftermath, the city grappled with shock and fear. The gruesome nature of the crime, a young woman bisected and meticulously posed, underscored the vulnerabilities faced by women in urban environments. Elizabeth Short's story highlighted the dangers inherent in pursuing independence and opportunity in a world that could be both alluring and perilous. Her life had intersected with ambition, charm, and danger in ways that were tragically compounded by the cruelty of her murder. The media's portrayal of Elizabeth played a central role in shaping her enduring legacy. Newspapers emphasized her glamour, her ambition to succeed in Hollywood, and the dramatic circumstances of her death. The nickname Black Dahlia evoked a sense of mystery and sophistication, linking her image to the noir aesthetics of the city she had sought to conquer. Photographs of Elizabeth, often retouched or framed to emphasize her allure, became iconic symbols of both her life and her tragic demise. The public consumed every detail, from witness statements to letters allegedly sent by the killer, creating a culture of fascination that blurred the line between reality and sensationalism. Elizabeth's murder also became a cautionary tale about the vulnerabilities of young women in a rapidly changing society. Post-war Los Angeles was a city of contrasts, offering opportunity and glamour while harboring crime, exploitation, and moral ambiguity. Elizabeth's pursuit of a career in entertainment exposed her to both social and physical dangers, and her story resonated with broader anxieties about the risks faced by women seeking autonomy in a male-dominated world. Over time, the Black Dahlia case evolved into a symbol of unsolved mystery. Writers, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts dissected the investigation, analyzing evidence, suspect profiles, and media accounts. Theories abounded, ranging from the plausible to the fantastical, but none provided a definitive resolution. The letters purportedly from the killer, some containing intimate knowledge of the crime scene, fueled speculation and paranoia, while the absence of clear forensic leads frustrated both law enforcement and the public. Elizabeth's story also influenced artistic and cultural narratives. Filmmakers, novelists, and visual artists drew inspiration from her life and death, creating works that explored the intersections of beauty, ambition, and horror. Noir films of the late 1940s and 1950s often echoed themes present in Elizabeth's story. Vulnerability amid glamour, the dangers of urban life, and the enigmatic allure of young women navigating treacherous social landscapes. Her murder became a reference point in popular culture, symbolizing both the fascination and fear surrounding crime, fame, and the darker dimensions of human behavior. Despite the passage of decades, the Black Dahlia murder remains a subject of intense research and discussion. Historians examine archival documents, police files, and media accounts to reconstruct the life and death of Elizabeth Short. True crime writers debate the plausibility of various suspects, from acquaintances to professionals with anatomical knowledge, while analyzing patterns in unsolved cases to identify potential connections. The mystery endures, in part because the crime was never solved, leaving space for speculation and cultural interpretation. Elizabeth's personal legacy is complex. She was more than a victim, she was a young woman with ambitions, dreams, and a desire for recognition in an unforgiving world. Her charm, wit, and determination shaped her interactions, social life, and career pursuits, even as they exposed her to danger. Her life, though tragically cut short, reflects the universal human desire for connection, achievement, and meaning, a narrative intensified by the violent and public circumstances of her death. The case also had lasting effects on law enforcement practices. The limitations exposed by the investigation, insufficient forensic technology, fragmented witness testimony, and the challenges of managing media attention highlighted the need for more sophisticated investigative methods. Over time, advances in forensic science, criminal profiling, and police procedure have provided tools that might have aided in solving the Black Dahlia case, but the passage of time and the disappearance of key witnesses have rendered many avenues irretrievable. Culturally, the Black Dahlia became a lens through which society examined issues of morality, ambition, and the price of fame. Elizabeth's image was often romanticized, her life reconstructed through narratives that emphasize glamour while simultaneously highlighting vulnerability. The interplay between myth and reality created a dual legacy. Elizabeth as both a tragic figure and a symbol of the dangers inherent in urban life and the pursuit of fame. The fascination with the case persists in contemporary media. Documentaries, books, and fictionalized accounts explore her life and murder, reflecting enduring public interest. Each retelling offers a reinterpretation of events, motives, and personalities, while maintaining the core mystery. Who killed Elizabeth Short, and why? The unresolved nature of the crime ensures that her story continues to captivate audiences, serving as both historical record and cultural touchstone. In reflecting on Elizabeth's life, it is important to consider the broader context of her time. Post-war America presented opportunities for upward mobility, social freedom, and personal ambition, particularly in cities like Los Angeles. At the same time, it was a society marked by gender inequality, social stratification, and hidden dangers. Elizabeth navigated these challenges with courage and determination, even as her vulnerability was exploited in tragic ways. Her story embodies the tension between aspiration and risk, light and shadow, hope and violence. Elizabeth Short's murder also became a case study in the intersection of crime, media, and public consciousness. The press played a pivotal role in shaping perceptions, influencing the investigation, and cementing the case in cultural memory. The sensational coverage, while criticized for ethical shortcomings, also ensured that Elizabeth's story remained part of the collective imagination. The term Black Dahlia became synonymous not only with the murder but with the allure and darkness of Hollywood itself. Today, Elizabeth's legacy endures in multiple dimensions. She is remembered as a young woman with dreams of stardom, a victim of one of the most notorious crimes in American history, and a symbol of the fascination society holds with unsolved mysteries. Her story continues to be studied, analyzed, and retold, bridging the gap between historical record and cultural myth. The unresolved nature of the case preserves the enigma, allowing each generation to confront the enduring questions about crime, ambition, and vulnerability. The Black Dahlia murder stands as a reminder of the fragility of human life, the complexity of social dynamics, and the consequences of both ambition and exposure to risk. Elizabeth Short's life and death reveal not only the personal dimensions of tragedy but also the societal conditions that magnify vulnerability and shape memory. Her story, frozen in time by both horror and fascination, continues to resonate as a cautionary tale and a reflection on the enduring mysteries of human behavior. Ultimately, the Black Dahlia case transcends the specifics of the crime itself. It is a narrative about the collision of innocence and danger, ambition and exploitation, visibility and vulnerability. Elizabeth Short, in Life and Death, embodies these tensions, serving as a prism through which society examines its own values, fears, and obsessions. Her story, meticulously reconstructed through historical accounts, media portrayals, and cultural memory, remains an enduring testament to the complexities of human experience and the haunting power of unsolved mystery.